Alright, Schlockmeister fans, here's an odd one you may never have heard of. Larry Hagman, made for television, The Return of the World's Greatest Detective. Let's watch. Larry Hagman.
Sherman, maybe you don't belong in police work.
He plays Sherman Holmes.
I never wanted to be a motorcycle cop. You know, I always wanted to be a detective. I mean, my name's Holmes. Like in Sherlock, you know?
But you played Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Sherman's not the best cop, and when his motorcycle falls over and these two fellas decide to help him out, and then later on, after he gets his motorcycle back, or a new bike, he's reading his book and oops, an accident occurs. He's not dead, but he's now thinking that he's Sherlock Holmes. He's now in a hospital.
His condition has stabilized for the past 3 months. The patient has lost all touch with reality. He fully believes that he is Sherlock Holmes.
Has he responded at all to treatment?
That's Ron Silver as one of the doctors. So they release him from the mental hospital.
I presume I have the honor of being accosted by Dr. Collins.
And he's still thinking he's Sherlock Holmes, but he now has powers of deduction.
Mystifies me. Footsteps are unfamiliar to me. I don't think we've met. I'm Sherlock Holmes.
How do you do?
Please excuse the deductive demonstration, but breakfast. It's a very important meal.
He's moving into a new building.
It's very unhealthy.
How did you know I didn't have breakfast?
Oh, from this tiny pink speck on your cheek. If you'd had breakfast, you would have dabbed it off with your napkin. And since I know
Now, the woman there is Dr. Joan Watson.
I can only deduce that it is a toothpaste.
Now our crime takes place. And it's murder. Not only is it a murder, but the car is also pushed over a cliff. Now this looks like a young Louis Anderson, but apparently it's not.
Ralph, your probation officer tells me something's disturbing you.
Yeah, she is.
The one, Edward Kegel.
The embezzler?
Yes, it appears he lost control of his car on Mulholland Drive late yesterday afternoon. Drove to his death over an embankment.
Yes, I read that story.
And you also read that Kegel was out on bail awaiting trial under suspicion of having juggled the books of...
Well, of course, Holmes doesn't believe it's an accident, so he's going to investigate it. And of course, we know he's right, it's not. He meets the police chief.
Whatever you're talking about, sir. I've never seen you before in my life.
Oh, then how'd you know I was a cop?
Because you're not carrying an umbrella.
Huh?
Because you're quite dry, sir. The only way you could have entered this...
What was that?
Well, I thought of that too. But I checked the time Kegel was at the car wash and the time the car was discovered. And there wouldn't have been enough.
Enough what?
Time, Tinker, time.
This is all typical amateur sleuthing.
Sherlock Holmes has always been something of an amateur, inasmuch as he rarely got paid.
He has convinced Dr. Watson. He's going to convince the police chief that he's legit, too.
That lieutenant, he fooled me, too.
Oh, since you didn't contradict me a moment ago when I referred to Kegel's murder, I take it that the autopsy confirmed my suspicions.
Yeah, Kegel was strangled, all right. Doc, shut that door, will you?
Family and few friends. He was what I believe you people call a loner. Yeah? Now, since embezzlers of his stripe rarely have a confederate, simply because they don't need one, and since he was under considerable pressure from many sources to disclose the whereabouts of the $500,000 he stole in exchange for amnesty, I think we may presume he's done so. What's the big emergency? Everything was going great, wasn't it?
Another murder.
Yeah, well, I hear you playing this pool deck. Yeah, well, what's he doing here anyway?
It's all part of his therapy, McCluskey, letting him hang around working policemen.
You're putting me on.
Sergeant McCluskey. From now on, that's Sherlock Holmes. You understand Sherlock Holmes?
questioning a witness.
But really, you see, I own coin-operated laundry, and Mr. Ballant came in to see me a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that he has this...
It was a scheme to keep a shopkeeper out of the shop for several hours a day, while a gang of cooks tunneled from his basement into a vault next door. Mr. Himmel's assistant was in league with Ballinger.
There isn't any vault next door to my place. There isn't anything next door. Just a building under construction.
Now, we shall see.
Sure enough, he was right, a tunnel.
Would not have dug to the surface without attracting attention.
Dug what?
For what was buried there?
What was?
The $500,000 cable stole, unless I miss my guess. And that his ill-gotten hoard would remain undiscovered until such time as he was released and could dig it up himself.
But then he told somebody, and that somebody killed him and went after the money himself.
And got it.
Listen, Holmes, I just called to say thanks a lot, but you're off the case.
What's happened?
I got a line on our man.
Oh, I take it Mr. Himmel was able to make an identification?
Yeah, finally. Small-time hood. Guy named Vince Cooley. I'm putting out an APB on him.
Sid Haig.
Since your ticket is with an airline that has only international flights from here, it's obvious you think you'll be safe out of the country. You're wrong, sir. You are in great peril.
Sid Haig pleads guilty. And then a smoke bomb.
Just a smoke bomb. Everybody stay where they are.
And then someone's going to try to shoot him.
One moment, Your Honor. I don't think that'll be necessary. Our phantom bailiff has cleverly taken advantage of the recent smoke bombings, and he is still with us in this courtroom.
Where?
Well, right here, sir. See? On each shelf.
And Holmes is going to find the cash hidden in the judge's office.
I think an examination of these volumes may be very much in order, Lieutenant. There you are, Lieutenant. An old dodge, to be sure.
And that ends our film.
Well done, Holmes.
Looks like they may have been setting up perhaps a TV series that never happened.
Good thing no one was beneath that.
Alright, let's talk about Return of the World's Greatest Detectives. What is this movie? Where did it come from? Well, back in the early 2000s, I was collecting a lot of obscure, hard-to-find movies that never been released on videotape or DVD, a lot of made-for-TV stuff, and that's where this one came up. A lot of people were looking for this movie. I sought it out, and I eventually found it. It's Larry Hagman playing Sherman Holmes, although he pretends that he's Sherlock Holmes. Maybe it's fans of Sherlock Holmes are looking for this one because it's a rare one. I don't know. But anyway, it's a 72-minute made-for-television movie from 1976. He plays Sherman, a police officer who gets hit on the head by his own motorcycle. Yes. And then he's a big fan of Sherlock Holmes. And then once he comes to, I guess he had a concussion or whatever. I don't know. But he suddenly thinks he is Sherlock Holmes. And suddenly his deductive powers of reasoning are off the charts, sky high. And he can figure out everything just like Sherlock Holmes did. Well, of course, there's a murder that happens in town, and it's initially ruled an accident, but he deduces that it was not an accident. Of course, he's right, because we know there was a murder, and there's some money involved in this and that, and ultimately, in a very quick amount of time, he's able to figure this all out. He's working with this woman called Dr. Watson, Dr. Joan Watson, a woman, like I said. Now, she was... I'm not sure if she's a parole officer or she's part of the hospital, whatever. But Larry Hagman was in the hospital for a while because he was mentally ill. They thought he thought he was Sherlock Holmes. But eventually they do release him, and he's still kind of crazy though, thinking he's Sherlock Holmes. But anyway, so he's working with Dr. Watson. We have a Holmes and Watson going out there. Eventually he meets the police chief and convinces the police chief that he's really good. So the police chief uses him as much as he can, but eventually the police chief kicks him off the case when he thinks that he's solved it, but he's wrong. Ultimately, it leads to a courtroom showdown where this one guy, Sid Haig, there's a smoke bomb that goes off, and somebody tries to shoot Sid Haig, and it turns out it's the judge. The judge is behind this all, and they arrest the judge, and they go into his office, and they find all this stolen money. And that's pretty much the end of our movie. So anyway, this is harmless little fluff is what this is. Nothing special here. Again, still not available on DVD. I got some homemade box art here, and made a box, burned a DVD of it. There are copies of this floating around if you look hard enough on the internet. Also, I believe I saw it on YouTube today. Somebody has uploaded it to view. However, the version on YouTube is only 55 minutes long. Now, this movie is an hour and 12 minutes. That's how long this copy is that I have. So I don't know what they got there, but there's 17 minutes missing of it. So again, I don't know. I haven't viewed it, but if you are looking for at least a truncated version of it, you can find it on YouTube, 55 minutes long. So anyway, that's it. It's a Return of the World's Greatest Detective. It's an okay film for what it is. It's just, like I said, simple, goofy comedy from the 70s, and did not turn into a TV series like I think they were hoping it would. But whatever, right? Jenny O'Hara played Dr. Watson. Sid Haig was in it, all this mentioned. And I showed a quick scene of this chubby guy who got knocked over, I think, by his mother. I swear to God, that looks like Louis Anderson. It even sounds like Louis Anderson. But I looked up Louis Anderson's credits and stuff, and there's nothing really about him prior to his 1984 appearance on The Tonight Show, which, by the way, was a really good appearance. Check it out. That's on YouTube for sure. So, yeah, if that was him, he has not fessed up to it. And there is no character Ralph that was listed on IMDb for that role. So who knows? Maybe it is Louis Anderson. I don't know. But check it out. Return of the World's Greatest Detective. Let me know what you think about it. Leave some comments down below. Watch it. Bye.